My first poem today is from my very first book, a long time ago, called Return to Kemp Town. This piece is called Edge of the World with Billy McKenzie. And for people interested, Billy McKenzie was the singer of an 80s band called The Associates. There is a magic here, sat alone in the back of a hobbled old waiting room with an almost burnt-out log fire, reflecting in the past. There is a beauty which certainly wasn't somewhere over the rainbow or in the back of your memories. There is a tenderness in the cold wind, blowing a sea of dreams that you know if you scream out loud into the breeze, nobody will answer. Nobody will know in the distance as the snow tumbles down from the sky in a disorganised frenzy how much once upon a time you loved them, and no matter how much you deny it, you still do. Nobody will see your every footstep which are like boxes waiting to be opened, and nobody will see you sing softly to yourself with whispered hush as you walk up and down trying to keep warm. At the edge of the world, time seems to stand still. The moon freezes in the sky for just a little bit longer. The clock on the tower stops and starts before stopping altogether. And no matter how many times you sing it, the train will not come any faster, and you will still be alone. Okay, this is from my third book, The Birth of Autumn. Throughout this book, there is a sequence of a couple of poems of an imaginary couple that are having an affair, and they will be making their own book someday, but this is one I quite like, and it's touching back to when they were children, so it shows you how long they've known each other, really. And it's called Bad Neil Young Covers in Nana's Attic. Looking back, Sarah, what were you thinking when we climbed into your Nana's attic before kicking the ladder out from underneath our feet? What were you thinking? And you simply smiled at me, encouraging me to play one of your dad's 2 acoustic guitars that nobody had touched for years. Perhaps that was the point, crunching biscuits on solos as we first jammed out Harvest, then Old Laughing Lady, barely in touch with each other, let alone Neil. Shuffling feelings in tune with both our hormones, buried in childhood and memories that were laced over your grandfather's chest. Setting alarm bells in heartbeats, destining our voices into outlines, blowing free in the open windows, leafed golden in nostalgia, veiled in that summer's jaded hinge. Losing our creativity in the threadbare crags of various dances, over our fragmented guitar playing. Those afternoons into a fragmented beginning, before everything changed. Hi, okay, next things up is a couple of pieces from my brand new book, The Streets Were All We Could See, which has a wonderful cover on it designed by Amanda. Now, this book is full of very, very short pieces, and almost like microfiction done poetry style. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do 4 pieces from this in one little sequence, because they're only very, very short. So I'll say the title and the poem and we'll move on. First one is The Great Escape. A fly hovers on your sister's windowsill until she opens it and it escapes in a rush, almost like it is glad to be leaving. Secondly, stone deaf. Our argument turns stone deaf as the rain starts playing Miles Davis tributes. Number 3, stranger in a strange land. Crossing imaginary borders, you feel like a traitor stepping into another land, after stepping into another supermarket, after shopping at another's for a few months. And lastly, after the hailstorm. After the hailstorm finishes, the irony is not lost in you when he sits next to you saying, "It stopped." Okay, this is a love poem from my second book, The End of Summer. And this is called Kissing My Every Scent. First you wore my cardigan, then my socks, mingled with my thermal coat before curling up with my umbrella, stroked my slippers and counted the buttons of my shirt, warmed your hands with my gloves and twisted my scarf in knots, embracing my absence, kissing my every scent. Okay, this is something really brand new, where just over 10 years ago I was working at the Co-op in central Manchester, and February 2011, it was a 10 actually I should say, I went to work that morning and this event's happened. Angel and Meadow. Reassessed afterwards, it was revealed she'd a missing first upper right pre-module before they announced there was no links to Peter Tobin and Ronald Castry over her death. I only remember coming down the lift, only to discover the main exit had been sealed off, and my then boss stood there trying to reason when would we be let out of our office. She was wearing a blue jumper, blue brassiere, a green pinafore and a sole black stiletto court shoe, the report said afterwards, with an orange carpet and a handbag laid out nearby her. I only remember my boss saying to me, his cheeks bright red, "We've got no chance of getting out at the moment with what's going on out there." Initially they thought it was a recent death and the body had simply been missed, until they realised the pinafore dress had a unique 1970s style pattern. "We're going to be here all bloody night," he said to the policeman, to be greeted with a response, "I'm sorry sir, it's the inspector's orders." 10 years later, his reaction sticks in my head when we read in the paper 3 days later that poor girl had been there for decades and could have been my boss's daughter. "Jesus, Andrew," he said to me, choking on his words for a good 10 minutes upon realising they were of a similar age. That could have easily been our Louise. 10 years later, I still have no answers to what he said that January morning, and the regret he displayed, what he said trying to leave the office. 10 years later, nobody knows her name, or how or why she died, and why there, and how much she fought, or whether she was killed in seconds. Whether she was killed in the snow and her life lay buried in the bushes, of an accidental elegy left there alone in the shadows. It could have easily been our Louise, he said in our meeting room. It could have so easily been her. Okay, this is a piece about my uncle, because about 10 years ago I found out some quite details about how he actually sadly passed away in the Second World War, and it meant a lot to me because it's something that still means a lot to me to the very day. So this one's from my uncle, Percy. I'll simply call Percy. "I've never met you, but I can imagine you stood there even now in your uniform, with your slightly bent cap. I never looked up at you and said with a wide-eyed innocence, you're almost as big as a tree, all 6'4" of you. Never served beside you in the mud in Burma, which must have been hell to crawl through, before being transferred, possibly against your choice, to India, where I like to think you imagined you were an explorer stepping into the unknown. Never marched alongside you every morning and at night as part of the Fusiliers, or drank a beer with you on the rare occasion you managed to rest. I wasn't there when you went back for that final time. Never heard you say, 'I'll write soon,' when your letter only arrived after you had gone. I was told you died like a man, leading your men into the gates of the machine guns, which cut you down like the charge of the Light Brigade, and passed on so others lived to fight another day. I never met you, but I can imagine you stood there in your uniform, even though we never met. But I can taste your thoughts right up into the end, into the embrace of shadows. Percy Henry Nicholson, my uncle, 1918 to 1943. Percy Henry Nicholson, 1918 to 1943.